What is up, guys? Thank you so much for clicking on this video, and today we're going to be installing the TSS Fab 350Z dual rear caliper hubs and buttoning up a bunch of other stuff on the K24 swapped Subaru Impreza. So I actually ordered these a while ago. It has been like 6 or 7 months since I actually got these. I think it's been around that long, but as you can tell, they are very surface rusted. But these are going to bolt on to my OEM rear hub. Everything's going to bolt on, and then I have 350Z hubs that are going to bolt to here. I'll use a 350Z rotor, and then I have 4 350Z rear Brembo style brake calipers coming in. One's going to be for normal brakes, and another's going to be for a hydro. And I also have a few more packages that just came in the mail for other stuff that I'm going to go ahead and knock out real quick while I keep piecing together the rest of the kit. So I've needed to do this for a while, especially now that I got the engine running and turning the transmission. I need to put fluid in the transmission. I read around in this D4 ATF. It is for automatic and manual transmissions. Apparently the BMW ZFs like this. You can see right there, it was recommended on forum. And then I got MT90 for the S14 R200 rear diff. That's not spinning at all, obviously, because I don't have a drive shaft, but I am going to go ahead and fill that up before I forget. And then something I was contemplating for a while and went ahead and just going with the easy, quick route is the radiator. And I went ahead and bought one that comes with a shroud with 2 slim fans. Depending on how good these work, I may put these small ones on because this is just eBay stuff. But this radiator is actually for a GD WRX, not a GC, because that way the upper filler neck is in the middle instead of completely on the corner, so that's less distance that I have to route. Because on the EJ, the upper radiator hose is here because it goes into the upper coolant neck right there. But since my upper radiator hose is there, my lower radiator hose is there. They're both on the same side. So I'm only going to need to build a crossover tube from the middle instead of from the left. So save a little bit of space. Maybe I can figure out how to do that. But I'll get the cooling system all finished up in this video. That way I can actually run the engine for longer than like 2 or 3 minutes like I've been doing it previously. And there's one last thing I did off camera because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, but it did, and I'm actually pretty proud of myself for it. So if we come inside to my spider infested interior, you will see that the shifter is actually mounted and looks OEM. And that is because I made custom mounts to make this fit. It's kind of dark in here, so I'll use my Odelphi headlamp that they actually sent one of these out to me, gave me a coupon code. So if you want to go in the bio, you can pick one of these up for yourself, get a discount with my code. If we look in here, that is the front of the shifter mechanism, and you can see this plate. And if we look under here, that is the back of the shifter mechanism. I have 2 bolts on each side. This is aluminum and this is sheet metal. So what I did is I drilled holes out and put 2 riv nuts on each side. That way I could extend this out. And if you see the bottom bar that actually shifts, I added 5 inches to this bar right here to get it to actually shift, because that bottom bar is the one that moves. It's kind of hard to record it. For the rear mount, I just wrapped a bunch of electrical tape in the little end of it to thicken it up and use this little bar, bolted the back of it down to make it stable. Now I'm able to shift through all the gears. So I got the radiator mocked up. The bottom feet were the same, which is nice, but the upper brackets are different. You can see these would be here and this one would be here, but they're in a different spot, but that don't matter. I can make my own. That's not a big deal. I got the fans on, and we got plenty of space in the back. I'm really happy with how this sits. And if you can see, this is here, and it's got to go to there. All right, so I'm mocking up hoses right now, and I just found out something really badass. So Marcus's 370Z just so happens to be broken down in my driveway. A few months ago, I was working on his car doing the gallery gaskets and shit like that, and he brought over a bunch of spare parts, and one of them included a lower radiator hose from Z1 Motorsports. And I was checking the fit, and you can see it is slid all the way on there and all the way on there. It's a little tight there and a little loose there, but that's what hose clamps are for. And it goes right over the AC lines. I plan on doing AN lines for the AC lines. I'm not sure if I'm going to get more play because it is rubbing right up against it. This is crazy because A 370Z lower radiator hose will work on this identical setup with, if you do exactly what I'm doing, you can get that to work. So that's pretty interesting. Here is what I'm working with. It is very ghetto, but it works. This is a piece of pipe that I kinked right there and connected it straight there. Kind of ghetto-y, and if we look here, it is extremely close to the serpentine belt. Just like that, it rests on it, so it has to stay up to not hit it. Everything else fits, so I technically have a cooling system now. I got the coolant temp up to 210. I also got the alternator to work, so that's nice. But the thermostat is not opening because this is very cold and this is obviously very hot. Nothing else is leaking though. But that is it for the first part of the video. Now it's time to start doing the rear hub swap, which is probably why you clicked on this video. I have all the parts set out for this side. I also painted my rear knuckle purple. As you can see, I had this one purple as well, so got that nice and spray painted, and now it's time to assemble everything. And if you look right here, no, this isn't bolted up, it just fit. My OEM rear brake line actually threads into here, and if you look at this little brass piece in here, that is for a hard line fitting to thread on and bottom out on to seal. I have a OEM banjo bolt that threads in just tight enough to actually seal the crush washers instead of having just the hard line seal it like that. So I saved some modifications on the normal brake pedal brake caliper. I'm still going to need to make custom lines and everything for the Hydro second rear caliper. First, I got to put the rear lateral arm bushing in right here, and this is a Heim joint, so this does wiggle a little bit. And if we look here, there's a lip, so we're going to need to push it in from the back all the way up against that lip, and then we can put the other pieces in, because that'll go through there, fit in there, yada yada, and then close it off with the snap ring. It's gonna need some motivation. And then we can see that groove in there right there, and that is where the snap ring is going to go. I made these custom snap ring pliers out of a pair of needle nose, but they work just fine. And then you want to add grease all over these parts so they can slip in nicely. So you see this beveled edge goes right into this. And just like that, that's what we're working with. We're still waiting on the rotor and brake pads to come in to have it fully set up. Pretty close right here. It took a little bit of maneuvering to get this hole lined up since these are all adjustable, so I had to give it a lot of toe in order to get this straight, but I got that in, so now I can actually adjust it. But gosh darn. So the other thing I noticed is you're gonna have to put both rights on the right and both lefts on the left, because if you see, this is a left on the right side, the bleeder is facing down, but if I take another right, you can see the bleeder is facing up. So now this guy and all its cables need to be torn completely out. Well, it is a whopping 95 degrees outside, but that ain't stopping us from getting work done. Stay tuned for the video on her car that I am recording simultaneously with this one. I got everything ripped out, and I am not going to be installing a hydro for a minute. I want that to be one of the last things I do. This top caliper is going to be empty for a while. I'm going to put the brake pads and everything, but I'm going to keep the little plug in the brake fluid threads, so it's just going to be there for looks pretty much. I'm still waiting on the rotors and pads in the mail, so I will update y'all when that happens. I just got my package from Rock Auto, and check this out. So I got everything opened up, and if we look at my OEM rear brake rotor and compare it to a 350Z brake rotor, look at how much bigger this thing is. I went ahead and put this side on, and Jesus Christ, we got the extra most bestest triple pepperoni rear brake setup on my Impreza that makes my front brakes look like a personal pan pizza. Alright, so I got my Cosmo and Wanda painted brake calipers, and as I was trying to put everything back together, I went ahead and found lug nuts that fit since my Subaru ones don't, tightened it up, and now I can't get this to move at all. The bolts that hold the brake caliper on are actually hitting the back of the rotor, and the TSS Fab Kit came with these wheel hub shims. You can see there's two of them. I wasn't sure if I'd need these or not. I guess this is something necessary. I'm not sure when you wouldn't need them. Alright, it is only 99 degrees outside today, so I'm only dying a little bit. I went ahead and moved to this side since I hadn't painted these yet. I was getting the paint kind of messed up, but even with the hub spacer on it, it is still rubbing a little tiny bit. I can get it to move, but there is a lot of force because it rubs on the inside of the caliper right there. So I'm just going to let it self-clearance because he only gave two spacers, one for each side, obviously, and they're just thick enough to let the rotor move, but not freely. So I'm just gonna let it self-clearance and send it. And something I just found out about the axles as well is that the 350Z shares the same hub spline as a 240SX. So theoretically, I could put 240SX axles in right now. But what a lot of 240 people do is that the axles are actually different. The 240 SX axle has like three things like this, and then the 350Z has R-Zeppa style axles or something like that. So people actually take the axle stubs out of the R200 and convert that to be a 350Z, or you can get an adapter, but I think I'm going to try to convert it, and then you can run 350Z axles in your 240 SX. So I'm going to go that route so I can just slap in 350Z axles and call it a day. Alright, so I got this side painted and bolted back on, and since I got two sets of calipers, you need two sets of brake pads. I got the R1 Concept semi-metallic for the normal rear brake, and then I got the R1 Concepts OE line, so these are slightly cheaper, not quite as good. I'm just going to use that for the hydro just because it's not going to get used so much. I'm going to see if I can tell a difference in them or not. To fully finalize it, I am going to need to bleed the rear brake, but I don't want to record that because it's not very interesting to watch. But other than that, I am fully done with everything. So thank y'all so much for watching. Follow my Instagram, TikTok, everything under that username right there. Like, subscribe, and motherfucking peace.